Okay, today we are going to cover everything that you need to know for O-level coordinate geometry. All right, that is not based on circles, but based on straight lines. All right, now the first thing to do is we have to find the equation of the straight line. So this is the most fundamental one. So what will happen is we are given 2 points, we have to find the equation. The first thing to do is write down the linear equation y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is find m. So the m is given by the formula y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, rise over run. Now the formula will help you to see that if it is upward sloping, it will automatically be positive. If it's downward sloping, it will automatically be negative. So it's something that rise over run cannot do. Because rise over run, you still need to determine whether is it positive or whether is it negative. All right, so we will sub in the values here. For y1, we will let it be 5. Okay, I put an underline here to indicate that I need to start here. So 5 minus negative 1. So just to remind myself, I started here, so I have 1 minus 2. And the answer is negative 6. So once you have found m already, you will sub in 3 values. X equals to 1, y equals to 5, and n equals to negative 6. Now use any point on the line. This is a concept that you must know. Use any points on the line AB, any point. So in that case, I will have sub it into this equation, y. Okay, down here, please be very careful. Don't sub in the wrong x and y. That's where we usually make careless mistake. M, x, okay, m, x plus c. And hence c is 11. Finally, y equals to negative 6x plus 11. So there's quite a few places that you can make careless mistake. Number 1, please sub in the correct y value and the correct x value. Number 2, make sure you leave it in the form y equals to mx plus c as the final answer. So from the gradient intercept form, I can also tell that this is the gradient and this is the y-intercept. Okay. All right, the next concept. Can you tell me what's the length of this line? It's a horizontal line. What's the length? 3. Okay, how do you get 3? Yeah, so you must ask yourself this. If you don't know whether plus or minus, ask yourself how do you get 3? We have 7 minus 4 equals to 3. Now what's the length of this? Yes, you know that from negative 10 to 0 is 10, right? Then plus another 10 is 20. So the mathematical operation that you have to use is 10 minus negative 10. You must know this is 20. All right, we will need to use this later on. Now for a diagonal line, we will use Pythagoras theorem. C square equals to a square plus b square. Okay, so if I apply the Pythagoras theorem, C will be the square root of a square, which is x1 minus x2, or x2 minus x1. Okay, so the length here is actually x2 minus x1. All right, from here, you see the concept? Minus, right? So x2 minus x1 square plus y2 minus y1 square. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference whether 1 first or 2 first because I'm going to square it. Okay, and what formula is this? This is actually the formula for the distance of any line. Now please, when it's horizontal line and vertical line, can you please don't use this formula? It's very, very silly to use this formula. Okay, when the equation, when the working is so simple only, I do have students who go and use this for horizontal and vertical line. It will work, but it's very scary to see you all do this type of thing. Now, when the 2 lines are parallel, it means that they have the same slope, correct? And that means they have the same gradient. And in conclusion, what is the gradient of these 2 lines? M1 and M2. Same means what in mathematics? Alright, you need to know this. So when you know that the lines are parallel, you will know that the gradients are equal. Our job is to find the y-intercept. using the first method. Okay, now for this, okay, this one a little bit longer. Why is, when we have a perpendicular line, right? What is the relationship between the gradients? Okay, first let's investigate. Okay, so I call this O, A, and B here. So we will need to know what's the length of OA and OB. All right. Okay, why do we call this OB? Because it's M2. And then I call this OA because it's M1. Okay. So OA, how do I find the length? It's equals to, now fix your eyes on this triangle here. It is a right angled triangle. In order to find OA, I will use Pythagoras theorem. A square plus B square, the whole thing square root. Again, to find the length of OA, I use A square plus B square. Now, A square here is actually 1 square. What about here? B square will be M1 square. So that is the length of OA. Okay, roughly have a rough idea can already. So using the same argument, for the length of OB, we will square root A square plus B square. Again, A square is 1. B square is M2 square. So just now was M1 square, now it's M2 square. So the last one we have to find is actually AB. Now, what is the length of AB? Yeah, I want to find the length of AB. Okay, I'll give you a clue. It is something to do with this. AB is M1 plus M. You know that you take this minus this, right? So it is M1 minus M2. So that's the length. No need to do anything. Okay? Because the length will be always the big number minus the small number, you get the length in between. Pythagoras theorem. One last time. So the Pythagoras theorem says that AB squared must be equal to OA squared plus OB squared. Now you have finished the chapter on surd, so you should be very good at square root. So AB squared will be M1 minus M2 squared. How do you square this? Just remove the square root, right? I will have 1 plus M1 squared. And then I will remove the square root in order to square this. And I will have 1 plus M2 squared. Okay, next I will simplify and finally we will come up with a conclusion. What will happen here is M1 squared minus 2 M1 M2 plus M2 squared equals to 1 plus M1 squared plus 1 plus M2 squared. Now it may seem like very complicated. Basically, we just use Pythagoras theorem over and over and over again. So what will happen is, don't worry, I will cancel off because this and this are the same. So what will be left will be 2 negative 2 M1 M2 equals to positive 2. And final conclusion is hence M1 M2 is negative 1. When the lines are perpendicular, the gradients, the product of the gradients equals to negative 1, proven. Okay, your job is just to remember M1 M2 is negative 1 basically. Now midpoint. How do I find the midpoint of 8 and 10? Answer is midpoint of 8 and 10 is 9, right? But the question is, how do I get 9? Okay, so it is 8 plus 10 over 2. So how do I find the midpoint of a diagonal line? A non-horizontal, a non-vertical line. How do I find the midpoint? You will realize that the midpoint is also the midpoint of the vertical line. The midpoint is also the midpoint of the horizontal line, right? For the x-axis, and it's the midpoint for the y-axis. Now, what is this point here? You remember our plus, right? So I'll take x1 plus the x2. And then remember I have to divide by 2. Now, for the y coordinates, I'll take y2 plus y1. And what do I do? In order to find the middle, I will divide by 2. So this is called the midpoint, all right, of the line segment. That's all. Plus the two number divided by 2. Again, what happens if you forget whether plus or minus? Can you just use simple numbers like this and ask yourself, how did I get 9? Plus first before I divide. Okay, the last one for today's concept. What is the area of this rectangle? Can you all take a look? Okay, what is the length? 5, right? 9 minus 4. What is the height?
3.
And the area is 5 times 3. So the area will be 15 square units. Okay, why do we need to do that? I purposely chose an easy figure for you to visualize. Now, how do I use this shoelace method? So very simple. You can only screw up in one area.
Combining the thing.
You have to start from x1, y1, any one of them. So any one of them can be x1, y1, any one. But do you realize, okay, this is an error. Okay, so the important thing is, if you start from x1, y1, you must end with x1, y1 in order to close the loop, so that you can find the area. So the important part is, you must find the area starting with x1, y1, end with x1, y1. What you start with, go one loop, end with it. So your question is, what are these two lines? Alright, these two lines are the absolute value. It means that no matter what number you get, you just change it to positive. If you get negative, just automatically yourself change it to positive. Okay, I'll show you what I mean in a short while. So the question is, how do I use this shoelace method, and why is it called a shoelace method? So the important part is to note that we will multiply diagonally. So far, okay? Multiply diagonally. So how it looks like is, I will have half x1 multiplied by y2. Then I will have x2 multiplied by y3. So I will plus all together. X2 multiplied by y3. Okay, just remember, you keep adding can already, but we will multiply diagonally. X3 with y4. Sorry, I have to close the bracket. Finally, x4 with y1. Okay, you just add them up. Next, I have to do this part now. I will still multiply diagonally and I'll still add them up. So I will multiply diagonally, y1 times x2. It's easier to see with numbers later, don't worry. Then I'll add all up. y2 times x3. Just keep multiplying and keep adding. And then I'll get x4 with y3, so x4 multiplied by y3, and finally multiply this way, I will have x1 with y4. Now the important thing is, you take the first set, subtract the second set. Okay, subtract it. And that's how we use the formula. I will use numbers and show you now. Okay. I will do it in a clockwise direction. I will do it in a counterclockwise or anti-clockwise direction. There's a bit of difference. Okay. And the better one is actually anti-clockwise. Now, which coordinate do we want to start with? Doesn't matter. Okay, I give you a tip. You start with the one with the most zero or the simplest number. Because I'm going to repeat it again. Of course, I choose one that's very easy, ma. I'm going to repeat the first coordinate as the last one, right? So let's choose the easiest number, lah. Okay, yeah, this is easy. This is also easy. Shall we choose 40? All right, let's start from here. Okay, I teach you how to write. Very simple. You write down all the x first in a clockwise direction because I purposely want to do clockwise. So, can you read out what's the number? Continue. Clockwise. Continue. 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 Close the loop. Close the loop. Alright, so you must take note that you have to close the loop. Okay, now start with the same. I put an asterisk here to remind myself where did I start from. So what is the first y value? You will forget to close it, right? So during exam, a lot of students lose these 2 marks just because they forget to close it. So close the loop. Alright, now with a number, it's very easy to multiply. Okay, I'll show you. I will go this way first, right? Top to bottom. So 4 times 3 is? 12. Plus 12 plus 0 plus 0. Alright, so far okay, the first step. Just multiply and add up. If you forget, then you watch this video today again. Okay, the next set, the red color one. Multiply. Multiply. Plus 27. Now just keep adding, can already. Same thing, exactly the same. Multiply. Multiply. Now, what do I do with these 2 values? I subtract it, and I simplify and I subtract. So I will have half negative 30. You press calculator, 24 minus 54 is negative 30. Do you see the purpose of the absolute sign? So it is half times 30. Answer is 15. Why? Because area cannot be negative. Then you say, hey, then the formula something wrong, right? No lah, it's not for something wrong. It's that you have to remember you should go counterclockwise. The answer will be positive. I show you one last time. Okay, so if I go anti-clockwise, again I start from 40. Okay, let's write down all the numbers first. 4, what is the next number? Anti-clockwise. 9. 4, and close it. Please remember, always tell yourself close it, close it, close it, close it. Alright, like you leave the house, you must close the door. Alright, so close it. So then the rest I won't drag too long. 0, 0, 3, 3, 0. So if I work it out, this is in anti-clockwise direction. I will have half, okay, 0 plus 27 plus 27 plus 0. Okay, I do the other way now. 0 plus 0 plus 12 plus 12. And what do I do with these 2 numbers? I subtract. And you realize here I will have half 30. So no need to change it. Again, please, the idea is change it to positive. Please don't get change it to negative. It's already positive, just leave it alone. And the answer will be 15. So the conclusion is this. If you go anti-clockwise, it will confirm be positive. If you go clockwise, it will confirm be negative. Always just change it to positive. You do not need to memorize which way to go. You just need to memorize that because of the absolute sign, I need to change it to positive. All right. Okay, that's all for this lesson.